Hello, welcome back, everybody, to another year of the Sunday Podcast.
I'm Ollie Lam.
And I'm Matt Seddon.
Back in 2025 for our 5th season. You can expect more of this.
He's claiming that he was ill before the semi-final, whatever, but, you know, I just feel like at that point he was just looking for attention.
And some of this.
And you normally say, no human is limited, so I can't limit myself, or I can't just say I can do.
As well as event coverage around all the major races on the UK circuit.
And if you're a fan of the pod, please give us a rating and review on your preferred podcast streaming service.
And if you want to stay up to date with all the latest news, give us a follow on Instagram at Sunday Podcast.
As always, thanks for listening. See you next time, and we hope you enjoyed the episode.
Hello guys, welcome back to another episode. As always, brought to you by sportsshoes.com. If you did miss our main ep this week, obviously Mrs. George Mills after that 727 3000 on the pod with Matt. So go check that out if you haven't already. But look, this is the thing for me, mate, with the indoor season. It happens outdoors as well, but not quite so much as indoors. George Mills is almost old news, right? We were talking about him last week, and these days, look, 727, it's not the time it once was.
I know, just almost so fast. And even when you talk about old news, the fact that the 3000 world record was broken, and then, you know, an hour later we saw the men go and break the mile world record is ridiculous. But I don't know, mate, we were just talking a little bit off air, and hypothetically putting that Mills run of 727, does seeing Hocker and Fisher do that put Mills's run into perspective, or does it make Mills's run better because Mills was completely alone in the latter stages of his? And I was fighting the case that I think if Mills is in that race, he's sitting on those guys, and I think he too is running well inside 725 to be quite honest with you. And he may have been there late contesting over the last 400 as well. I guess we'll never know that, but I think he must be capable of something in the 723s, 724s off of that run, especially if he was in that race. But we've got to start with that 3000 because it was so impressive. I mean, they were just hammering, absolutely hammering, and just lap after lap, 59 point, 58 high. It was just sickening, really. Hocker uncharacteristically goes to the front with 600 to go. I was stunned. And then later in his interview, he talked about, having this sort of overwhelming confidence just kind of ooze through his veins during the race. And that's kind of what pushed him to the front. And he talks about potentially just trying to catch Grant by surprise a little bit. But I think it was a bit of an error. I mean, obviously it's an error now. It's easy to say that. But, as a 1,500 meter runner in the race, surely you just wait until the end. And then he's the one walking away with that insane world record.
Do you know what it reminds me of a bit, mate, is Whiteman in the Commonwealth Games post Eugene.
Almost feeling like you have to make a move.
Yeah. Feeling like you have to not just win, that you have to win as the big man, for want of a better expression, right? And I think some athletes can do that. Some people can really do that. Like we saw Kerr do it at Pre-Classic in the summer, early season, really came out like a world champion. But like you mentioned, it's very uncharacteristic for someone like Cole Hocker. But at the same time, mate, as much as he's trying to win and it's great to run a good time, it's better he does stuff like that at this time of year and seeing what he's really capable of. Because otherwise, for Hocker to continue winning, particularly in the 1500, we've seen Jakob's not capable of doing it in championship races. Kerr's not capable of continually winning in championship races. Like we mentioned before, obviously on the men's side anyway, Coe's the only person to ever retain that Olympic title, right?
Mm-hmm.
To keep doing it, you've got to add more strings to your bow. So Hocker needs to be able to add different ways of winning into his arsenal if he wants to. And right now is a great time to try it. And I did like in the interview, to be fair, obviously he got pretty emotional. I liked how he was just there to win. It doesn't really matter what time they're running. Because if you said to him before the race, oh yeah, you just take the time, of course he'd expect to win with that time. But yeah, if Grant's running quicker, then it's almost not good enough for Olympic champ.
Yeah, you could say that. I think you talk about retaining that 1500 meter title. I think we are going to see Hocker dominate. I was talking with with a friend just the other day about this as well, and your sort of predictions for the next 2 or 3 years and possibly 4 years. And I think out of all the 1500 meter men, right now, even Kerr, even Jakob, even the Goose, I think Hocker's the one that you look at and you're like, I think he can dominate for the next 3 or 4 years. I think the others are going to have a few good years for sure, but are they going to be really contesting for gold come LA? Time will tell. But yeah, I don't think so. Obviously, talking of Kerr, he pulls out due to illness, and as an athlete, when you pull out of a race and then you see a world record go down, and you see an amazing race, and everyone come away with these insanely fast times, I think that must hurt a little bit. There must be an element of frustration there as well, and he must be, perhaps fearful is the wrong word, but you must be like, blimey. Okay, well, I don't know if I was quite in that shape, or maybe he was when we're talking about a mile now.
Well, mate, I was actually going to say the opposite, mate. I think he sees those times and thinks, "Fuck me, it's a good decision to pull out." With any illness, right? Because you make yourself vulnerable. Whereas if they ran slow, he's probably like, "Well, I could have won it anyway, even being ill." And then actually, it'd been better to just roll out. But when they run quick, you're like, "Okay, well, I probably would have had to been on my A game to win that race." So I wasn't on my A game because of illness. So it was a good decision, right?
Yeah, you're saying he would have got about sixth, and Fogdog would have beat him.
Yeah, depending on how early he is, right? Like obviously, we don't really know, but do you know what I mean? Whereas if they run slow, Kerr's like, okay, well, even if I've had a cold for 3 weeks, I could probably like dust this field. But yeah, the way they ran, that's not the case. So yeah, he's probably really pleased he didn't run. Obviously, he's probably a bit like, not jealous, but he's like, I wish I wasn't ill, so I could have been part of the race like that. But you don't want to go into a race like that not in shape or like not feeling great.
Yeah. Do you know what's crazy right now in the sport is no one seems to, we talked about this last week, I might be repeating myself, but no one seems to be, everyone's just hot all the time. Like they're on fire all the time. And I think it's very difficult for, you look at like Hocker and Fisher and people like that, and you're thinking, well, maybe post-Olympic Games and such a high, the Olympic 1500 meter champion. We know that kind of Centro struggled that following year, and history tells us that you do kind of struggle. When we spoke to Josh Kerr after the Olympic bronze, even that was a while ago now, he talks about struggling a little bit that following year, but these guys just aren't. And the problem is you've got people like Kessler. I mean, Kai Robinson was out there running 7:30. Obviously, we saw Koskeren a few weeks ago run 7:30 as well. Like, you've got all of these guys just below who are, Cam Myers, who are just running so fast. When you're at the top of your game, there is no room now for error. Like, there's no room to have a slow start. And it's mainly because, like, if you do think, if Kerr did run and he's ill, by the way, a lot of people online saying Jakob would have run even though he was ill, and he would have taken the defeat, taken the hit. So there's a conversation there to be had. But yeah, you think and you look at, if he had a run and he comes fourth or fifth, I mean, the internet goes into meltdown, the press is all over him, and it's probably getting harder and harder for people to, for these big guns to race, knowing that they cannot be off their game at any race, even his bloody season opener like Milrose Games.
But I think that's the thing, we mentioned it last week as well, right? There's no such thing as a season opener anymore.
No, there's not. There's not.
You don't run your season opener at Milrose Games because it's such a good opportunity to run fast that can't be a season opener. I think
it is.
Athletes...
It is for these guys.
Yeah, but they must be... I think the depth in some of these groups, like we've seen it before, like when on let the guys come in and film, like Flow Track go in and film, and they're running like mile time trials in training and things like that. If you do that, you've done your rust buster there and then, right? So I think just the way they train these days enables them to be ready for some of these races, because you can't pass up an opportunity to run fast. It's like Mills the other day, right? Like even though the field's not that deep, you can't just run 7:45 and then be like, oh, okay, yeah, and the next one I'll just go run the world standard.
No.
If you've got a chance, if you've got a quick track and there's official timekeeping, you've got to take your chance, because you might not run sub 7:31.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're dead right. I mean, Milrose Games was ridiculous. It was so good, and I actually like. Obviously, in the UK, it was just amazing for us because it was like 9 to 11 at night, and I just think like that is the best time to watch sport for me. Like, you know, it's just so good.
Why do you want to sleep, mate?
Yeah, real talk. But I don't know. I just loved it. Like, you know, you're in your evening mode and you're just like getting outside. It's just the best time to watch sport. It really is. But you know, one thing I think worth mentioning about Milrose is obviously they did have a brand new track, and are those, you know, is that track a result of the world records? Are the world records a result of the brand new surface that they've laid? I don't really know much about it, but I thought, you know, it's worth picking up on. I mean, both races were run incredibly fast. They really were. So, the men's mile was insane. Obviously, Nagus just kind of won that and controlled it and hung on and managed to hold off Kessler. The 800 was ridiculous as well. It's just so many good performances. We should probably touch on the Brits. Obviously, that 3000 bar Fisher and Hocker, it was a massacre. But at the same time, people were still hanging in there to go run 7:30. I think Cooper Tier was 7:30. Kai Robinson was 7:30. By the way, he looked really bloody impressive. And hey, when I spoke to Mills about this whole altitude thing, and he lives there basically 9 months of the year, Kai Robinson's another example of a guy who's training in Stanford, obviously not at altitude. And then look, he's been living in Colorado about 6 months now, probably, since being a pro. And obviously he's living the pro life, so that helps as well. But I mean, he's running 7:30. Yeah. And probably had he set off at a more sensible pace for him, he could have gone quicker. Like, he ran a rough, like those guys ran a rough 7:30. Like, you got to take your hat off to the likes of Kai Robinson, because he's hanging on to Cole and Grant for as long as possible. And you're like, he must have been in a serious hurt locker. As opposed to Cooper Tidd did work through a little bit more. He's a bit more sensible at the start.
Yeah, I think we had a similar conversation after London Diamond League in the summer, when obviously a lot of the Brits ran pretty quick over 3K. I mean, there is an element, like, maybe physiologically it's not, well, I say maybe physiologically, right, it's not good to kind of blow your gasket at the start, but there's got to be an element that unless you're in a race where people are running that quick at the front, you would never go off that quick and never get after it that much. So you probably actually would never see how quick you're capable of going. Yeah. So, and like, if they're not backing themselves to run anywhere near that, you know what I mean, then they would never get close. So even if their first 200, first like 600, whatever, is a bit quick, at least they're putting themselves out there, and it gives them even a shot again nowhere close. Whereas, yeah, you stick them in another race, unless you're someone like Mills who's willing to just go after it, then you end up running a 7:40 or whatever it is.
Yeah, you're dead right. You've got to get after it. Out there talking about not getting after it, the women's want to make a mile was a little bit more tactical. But Georgia Bell wins, and honestly, she's starting to cement herself as one of the best tacticians in the game. And I think she's better. Yeah. She's even. I think obviously Kip Yeagon is just better, just period. But I think when you look at Georgia Bell and Jess Hull, like Jess Hull was a little bit fitter last year. She had obviously a little bit more experience, and she's stronger than Georgia Bell. So come the Olympic Games, she probably coped with the rounds and stuff a little bit better. But actually, like, I don't think there's anyone better on the women's circuit right now tactically. Than kind of Georgia Bell. I mean, that was a very, very messy race. She was at points, I was like, she was getting in all sorts of trouble, but she still negotiated it well and came through literally final 20. Depending on, basically, Faith Kipyegon probably won't be at the World Indoors, but I think Georgia Bell wins the European Indoor Champs and the World Indoor Champs if she does them both.
Yeah. Mate, I just think that the confidence you've got to have if you're Georgia Bell, right? Like, this time last year, you're racing at like a pro level, but you're not quite pro. You're winning races anyway. You then go into a summer where you finish second to the greatest of all time. You are Keely Hodgkinson's training partner, part of like arguably one of the best 815 groups, or there were definitely 800 groups in the world, purely because of Keely and herself, obviously. You're just going to go into every race this season now, like, and she said it herself, kind of as that full-time pro, like, off the camps that she couldn't do this time last year. Why would she expect to lose to anyone except Faith Kipyegon? over 1500 or
Yeah,
a mile.
Honestly, I think that's where her head's at.
Yeah.
I think obviously when she did the 3000 the other week, I think we were like, oh, she's got beat here. She's a bit further down. But I think she highlighted herself that 12 months before that, she did a 3000 in Dortmund and ran, I think it was 8:45, 8:48, something in that region. So she was already 12 seconds up on where she was last year. And we know how well last year went. So that was quite a nice comparison. It puts things into perspective for her, because she's not a 3K, 5K runner at all. She is a pure 8 and 15. I think she is one of the best tacticians in the game. No one can shift her. Her 1500 is incredible. So I think we're looking at a world indoor champion and a European indoor champion over the 1500. She's obviously
it's like we say, mate. We think she'd have medalled in the 8 at the Olympics.
Yeah.
Like, well, there or thereabouts. And if you are that good at 800 with the kind of 1500 meter PB she's got, you are going to be just not unbeatable, but it's going to be pretty tough to beat you, right?
Yes. Very, very tough to beat. So she was impressive. Another person from that group who was also impressive was Sarah Healy with the Irish record 8:30 in the women's 3000. She's looking very strong, and she's kind of that's someone Georgia Bell is going to have to contend with, but I think she'll probably lean towards the 3000, Sarah Healy at the European Indoors and World Indoor Championships. So, anything, there was so much in Milrose. I think just touching on Milrose, actually, it's just the blueprint on how to put on an indoor event. It's got great history, the prizes, those massive trophies and stuff. I think that's just historic, and it's always been kind of Milrose. You see athletes like Georgia Bell struggling to hold up the trophy, bless her, and stuff. But then, it's the way the officials are all bowling around in tuxes but also finish tape. I think finish tape should exist at every track and field meeting. I think it should be at the Olympic Games, crossing the line and breaking the tape first. That's distance running. It's just track running in general. And I feel like that's kind of a nice touch. And there's just loads of those little touches at Milrose, which I think makes it so special. And I've heard the atmosphere is just off the charts, and that probably doesn't come across very well on TV for us. But you can just tell it's a small, tightly packed arena. Even the way that big screen hangs down over the infield, and you can get they basically just looks like they play the races on that big screen. It's like a 360 screen. I think that's a
Jumbotron.
Yeah, that's it. Jumbotron, a modern day touch. It's just an incredible meet, and you can see why they all go there and run fast, and the fields were insane.
Yeah, you're bang on, mate. And look, we say it all the time, but how can we bring that sort of thing to the UK, right? Because that is one thing. Indoor meets in the UK are just, maybe not even just indoor meets, just meets in general, compared to the US. But it feels like particularly the indoor meets, they are so dull. And to be fair, this takes on quite nicely, because you've obviously got the Keighley Classic this weekend, so we will see. We will see, because I expect that to be obviously not want to make a mile, but I expect it to be very exciting, and I think we're going the right way. But do you know what I mean? Just some of the meets we see in the UK indoor stretched out over 8 hours. You mentioned obviously spectators wanting to watch 9 till 11 at night, but got races going off at 11 a.m. and it's just.
Well, mate, to be fair, the Milrose Games does have a load of high school events before, and even had a few in the program that we didn't they went and started replaying the New Balance Indoor Grand Prix. So it's a big day, but yeah, they compacted down. And to be honest, we're biased, but what I bloody loved about Milrose is it's so distance heavy, mate. Yeah, I think we had the men's 3000, the 60s were at the start. Boom, they were done and dusted.
That's what all meet should be, mate. Because you talk about
I think they
us
should
being
as well.
biased,
We've always said they should stagger it.
The sprint fans would be just as biased, and that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
In the same way, I'm sure they would absolutely love to have more sprint only meets. And I think in the UK there is a bit more of that culture. We have a few sprint only meets, but rarely do we see distance only. Obviously no Highgate this year. Yeah, so people got to step up.
So a few results. Foggy in the 3000 by 7:40. That was a great run, because again, it was not a nice way for a 1500 guy, for someone like him to run that 3000, going off in a sort of 2:30 or so first K, and then just sort of getting a touch slower, so he hung in the world there. That's obviously
A few scalps as well.
a few scalps in Ollie Hornshaw, McSwain. But yeah, that's obviously a European standard for him, and starting to think, what he might want to do come the European indoors, because at the moment, as long as you can run 740 and if it's tactical, he can finish very fast. So he could be in with a shout, because there's not too many Europeans who are breaking 740 right now. Obviously, you had Gressier run 730 up the field, and Mills and Jakob, but beyond that, it's kind of, there's a lot of guys in that 735 to 740 range.
I mean, it's going to depend on which Brits want to do the Europeans, though, right? And the trial, that's not going to be an easy team to make.
It's going to be very difficult. Yeah, with just two people, that's a very difficult team to make. Fogg, Westy, and Mills.
Yeah, to see what Kerr wants to do as well. Obviously, what said about the Worlds with the disruptions already. Maybe he needs a few more races. Maybe he needs less. I don't know. We'll see.
Geez, yeah. So there could only be. Oh no, there's still two spots. Because Kerr would be in addition, right? So there'd be three of them. Yeah. Anyway,
not for the Euros though.
Huh?
Not for the Euros though. No.
Well, yeah. Sorry, yeah, not for the Euros, and that's what we're talking about, the Euros. Yeah.
It could just be Kerr and Mills for the Euros. If Kerr wants
basically,
to go.
there could be one spot in that men's 3000. Wow. We're going to do a big review on that British indoors next week and talk through everyone who kind of has the standard and stuff. Because hopefully those entries will start to be finalised as well, so he knows doing it. So, mate, that's Milrose delivered once again. We'll move on to a bit of news. Commonwealth Games obviously gone to the moving to the mile in 2026 in Glasgow. I think that's very good for the sport. I think the Commonwealth Games does need a little bit of unique identity to it, and just something different to another kind of major championships, which clearly isn't as good as several other major championships like the Europeans, like the Worlds. So I think that's probably quite a nice touch for athletes. Well,
yeah, I think so, mate. And also it's a chance for people to go run like national records, world records, European records, whatever it is, because we don't often see that many mile races, particularly outdoors, and having one at a championship like that is a great time for people to go chase some records as well. So I think, you're bang on there, mate.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And then the only other bit of news was there were a few more results going down, but I was commentating on Mets on the weekend, and had a good few. Saw Jemariki for the first time run out sub 2 minutes 1:59.7. Did get beat relatively convincingly by Daguma, who's obviously those two were 1-2 at the World Indoors last year. So Daguma's looking good for indoors, and I hope we do get the kind of Keely and Daguma matchup come World Indoors, because I think that'll be good, depending on how Keely runs this weekend, of course. And there were some good results. One of Gurma's siblings ran 7:31 in the 3000, and he did dominate a little bit and looked very good. And all of those guys, by the way, are going to go again this week I say this Thursday in Louvain, and that's where Jakob's going to try get that world record that we're going to see him go after. But the men's 3000, I wonder if they can challenge that 7:22 record that Fisher's just run, because you've got Wale, you've got Kumagurma, who's going around 7:31 in Mets, again pretty much solo the whole way. Towards the end, you've got Gebriwet, we know what he can do. You've got Mahari, that really tall young Ethiopian that we saw in the summer go run 12:40 something. He was ridiculous. Tefera's in there. Yahune's in there as well, who went to Olympic 5000. He too is on fire in the summer. And you've got Telehan, Haile Bekele. So you've got 7 high caliber Ethiopians, and when you saw Hocker and Fisher, they would not have broke that world record if they didn't have each other. And you're thinking these guys are going to need to work together if they're going to get anywhere near that world record.
Yeah, I do think they will have had an eye on that race as well, and seeing Fisher go and run that time, I don't think anyone in that field is going to think they can't do it. Having watched that, to be honest. So you can be sure they're going to get after it, and I think it's exciting, mate, because I think we mentioned a couple of weeks ago as well, just we've not been seeing that many races where people really go toe to toe recently, but Milrose was a great example of it, and I think we're going to have more of that in the indoor season, where people are really getting after some of these races. And like we say, they have to. Like, none of, as much as these guys have got ridiculous kind of CVs, they've not run quick enough to qualify for the World Indoors. So if they want to go, they have to get after it.
This is true, and I think these Ethiopians are, potentially we're looking at Gebriwet wanting to, all of these guys potentially wanting to compete at the World Indoors. And Gebriwet's PB indoors, believe it or not, 7:32, Mahari 7:33, Tefera 7:33, Yehune 7:36. These are guys who have run 12:40. Wale's the only one who's run 7:24. So they will definitely want to box off that World Indoor standard. I think this could be this might be, I do not know, I'm only guessing, a mini Ethiopian trial here, where basically the top two in this race are going to go represent them in Nanjing. And so I think it's going to be electric. The European interest in there is, of course, Niels Laros. What can he do? We've seen Cam Myers absolutely tear things up as the 18-year-old and establishing himself as basically the best youngster right now. So Laros kind of having to respond to that. And, he's someone, again, who I think is going to want to box off that World Indoor standards. That men's 3000 in Levan's going to be off the charts. The 800 again is stupidly stacked, which is going to make it difficult for them to. I think it makes it difficult for them to run fast when there's so many big names in there. Like, you've got Crestan, who ran a 1:14 the other day. Hoppel's in there. Noah Kibet, who's been tearing up the indoor circuit. You got the two Spaniards, Garcia, Atawi as well. It's a Mark English. I think it's going to be a very, very busy 800 for those guys. So I think that could limit how fast they actually go, because it always gets messy. The women's 3000, Sege's in there. Levan is basically, it's the European equivalent of Milrose Games, people. You've got all the top Europeans, and you've got obviously what Europe attracts, which America often doesn't, is the best East Africans as well. And you've got Sege going in the 3000 as well. And then, of course, that's that men's mile. There is a men's 1500 as well, but that men's mile, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Giles is in there. But then other than that, you've got Nilsson in there. Other than that, no one's going to contest with Jakob. So in contrast to the likes of Nagus and Kessler, this is going to be the Jakob show, and he's going to have, I think, two paces help him out, get him to half a mile or so, and then it's going to be on him. He is going to have the wave lights, which they obviously didn't.
Yeah. And that's exactly what he wants, right? He doesn't want to be pressured to win the race. He wants to know that's wrapped up before it even starts. So all he needs to worry about is squeezing out that record. And I think it goes back to the argument we had at the start, right? Like, how does Mills run compared to the guys? And it's a very different type of race. And Keely will have the same at the weekend as well. She's purely going to focus on that time.
Yeah. Yep. Easier to do in 800. And then just a couple others in Levan that are racing. Walcott Nolan's in the 1500. So is Katie Snowden as well. And the women's 1500 this year is well, a little bit tame. Yeah, it hasn't been too many fast times come out of it. So obviously we saw Shelby run a 4:20. And then I was watching her. I actually watched her documentary the other day, mate. And she was saying how she wants to come out and break the world indoor mile world record, which is 4:13 apparently, by the Barber. I'm thinking, flipping how the internet's going into a meltdown if you come out and if we see Shelby break the mile world record.
I'm not giving other views.
I just had to watch it just to be educated. But yeah, I don't think anyone's broken 4 minutes in the women's 1500 yet this year. So I think the world lead is about 4:02 or something. So I think we're going to see a sub 4 minutes in Levan in the women's 1500, and we'll see what Walcott Nolan and Katie Snowden can go do there as well. So this basically is the week. There's so much going on. That's Levan. We've obviously got the Keeley Classic, which unfortunately we can't talk too much about because start list nowhere to be seen. We obviously know Keeley's doing it. We know Georgia Bell's going to do the 1500. Whiteman got announced. Neil Gawley got announced. We know there's a men's 600. But other than that, I've actually just seen a post on Instagram saying, does anyone want to run the 600? You have to be a sub 149 800 meter runner. So we're Tuesday and they're putting out public message on Instagram asking for people to volunteer to run the 600. So clearly,
they're giving opportunities to the to people in the sport.
Weird way of going about it. Clearly struggling for numbers in that men's 600, but I think this was always going to be the problem. I think when you do, obviously Keely's going for the 800, and obviously there's a women's 1500 as well. But when you have 1,000 on the timetable and a 600, those events just aren't going to work. People at this stage in the season, in the indoor season, it's a short enough season as it is. They want to go run a qualifying time. They want to get in a fast race, and I think they're probably just like, what's the point? Yeah, 600 is the kind of thing you might do to open up your season.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think you're bang on there, mate. Yeah, but it's all about Keely. It's the Keely show, isn't it? It's literally called the Keely Classic. So I don't think she'll be too bothered about the other fields. And obviously it's all going to be set up for her. So, mate, how quick do you think she can go? Because again, we mentioned season openers, right?
Yeah.
Season opener.
Notoriously, she's always run very well, sort of like early season, whether it be indoors or outdoors. And she's never looked rusty. She's never been someone who needs to get like multiple races. And obviously she goes a bit quicker as the season goes on, but she's always come out with a pretty hot time. I mean, last year or the year before, like comes out with a 1:57 or something. So it just depends how she's trained, I guess. But if I just feel like if Trevor and Jenny and everyone in the camp are just talking about a world record, they've been very open about it. I think we are going to see it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you'd almost be foolish to start talking about it unless they thought it was almost in the bag, because there's no point building hype and then disappointing everyone, particularly the kind of household name she is now. Like they announced the Keely Classic literally after she won Sports Personality of the Year.
Yeah, so 155 low, something like that. I mean, she went 154 indoors. That would be unbelievable. Yeah, I think she can probably go do it. So, yeah, that's that. I mean, let's move on to Boston. There's Boston this week, and then I believe there's another Boston on the 21st of Feb, which Grant Fisher and Cole Hocker are both doing the 5,000. I watched a video with Cole Hocker the other day, and he said he was doing on the 21st the Boston 5,000, and that will be his indoor season. That'll be it. And Grant Fisher as well, I think, is going to be attacking the American record. Obviously, the world record's 12:49. So, and the way that those two are running, you're like, poof. Maybe there's question marks over Hocker running at 12:40 something, but I think Grant Fisher probably will.
Yeah, you'd expect him to, right? At Boston after the weekend.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be surprised, would you? That's the thing, like that. I think that's the thing with Boston. Like it's always, the time's always impressive, but I always wake up, look at those results, and I'm never surprised.
No. But I think that's the Boston in 2 weeks. And then we've got one this weekend on Friday where we've got like Gressier, Conor Mantz is in the 5, James West is in the 5, Rory Leonard's in there. So I think this
is historically the quick one. The BU Valentine.
This is it. Yeah, the BU Valentine is historically, very, very hot. Yeah, it really is. So, and there's a load of good collegians in there, to be honest, as well. So we'll see what comes out of Boston this Friday. But yeah, you're right. I think we will. Talking of 5Ks, actually, Ellis Cross, shout out to him. 1336 in Monaco is pretty hot. I know he's doing British Champs indoors. So lots to look forward to. British Champs, mate, has been announced for the 2nd and 3rd of August, so keep that in your diary, folks. British Champs Outdoors, that is. Obviously, it's going to be back at the Alexander Stadium. Barcelona Half is also this weekend, and who we got doing that? We've got Mark Scott doing that, so look out for that. Cripper's doing it. It's a bloody good field. Kip Limo and Camwara are doing it up at the front. There's a few other East Africans in there. Carlos Mai, Abdi Nagi's in there. Amanal Petros. Zach Mohammed, Phil Sessman, Alex Yee for the cheeky debut. So we'll see what he can do ahead of London, how he's shaping up in the Barcelona Half. And then obviously on the women's side, you've got Abby Donnelly, Lucy Reed, Lily Partridge. Those three could kind of go in head to head. Jess Judd's also doing it as well. So, Barcelona Half is certainly one to watch out for, and is probably going to give us a good indication of how people are shaping up ahead of the Mara, ahead of the big London.
Yeah, for sure. And look, that pretty much wraps up wraps up what's to come. Obviously, Bucks indoors as well this weekend. So for all you students, probably be looking forward to that. But yeah, I think, mate, next week's weekend roundup is going to be absolutely stellar.
A couple of days worth, I think.
Yeah.
It's
3 hours worth of weekend roundup next week. So
yeah, Bucks indoors. Yeah, obviously this weekend as well. And yeah, looking at the entries, I would probably say that the men's 800 is the most stacked there is.
quite a typical Bucks indoors thing, though, right?
Yeah, I guess it is.
I think
there's 10.
It's hard to.
I want to say there's about 8 or 9 guys sub 150, which is pretty bloody strong. Justin Davis is probably heavy favourite, but it is the men's 800. Obviously, with only 6 in the final, it is bloody strong this year. So looking forward to seeing how our Bucks indoors goes down as well. We've got a good few medal hopes.
We mentioned that being strong, but mate, over in the US, obviously we say it every single year, but right now, last guy in the NCAA mile is what, 354?
Yeah,
it is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, and talking of that, I think that that Gary Martin, the collegiate, went and ran 348 as well in Milrose. So yeah, the NCAA is just off the charts. And George Cootie, by the way, is doing a 3,000 in Boston. I saw him on the entries, so expect him to probably go sub 750. I would expect something in that.
Obviously, he's already around 355 for the mile, obviously. So yeah, be interested to see. But look, yeah, that pretty much wraps us up. Thanks for listening as always. We'll catch you very soon, and like we say, it'll be a big weekend roundup next week. So look forward to that and enjoy the races.